Howdy, neighbor. It's me, Betty. Look at that sunset. It is so beautiful. It is so lovely. I'm not sure if you can really appreciate the pink hue of this sunset and the blueness of the clouds. Well, today I was talking with a friend of mine, and we were talking about grief. And she'd actually written a book about it. But I shared with her that my mother had passed away. We hadn't spoken in a few years. And I shared with her that in that time that we hadn't spoken, my mother had passed away. And I told her that sometimes it doesn't seem real. Like you think, and I find myself even saying, like, surely it can't be that my mother isn't here. Surely she hasn't passed. Surely she's still here. How can it be that she is gone? And she told me that that's actually a pretty common feeling that people have that have lost a loved one. But it was something, and I never, Googled it or anything. It's just how I've felt. Sometimes I'll think about her and I'll think, it surely can't be that she's gone. And I still live in the neighborhood that I grew up in and I've lived in for many years, and which was also her home. And so sometimes I'll, just go to a grocery store or go, run an errand and go to a store, that she'd always went to. And I think, how can it be that she's not here and that she'll never be here? And it reminded me of a story. This was an actress from the old Hollywood era, Victoria Stanwyck, and she played in lots of movies. I knew her from a TV show, a Western that was made in the 60s, and the Western was called The Big Valley. It's a great show if you haven't seen it. It's on YouTube, you can look it up. And so Victoria Stanwyck had, so in The Big Valley, she plays the matriarch of the show, and the matriarch of the family. But in The Big Valley, she has this, or in real life, in The Big Valley, she has this personality and temperament where, she's really tough. And I remember thinking, like, there's something behind that. Like, where did she get that toughness? Because it wasn't normal. It was a hardness, and I thought, I wonder what happened in her life to make her that hard. And I happened to look up her, Google her and research about her life, and I learned that when she was a young girl, her mother worked really hard for her and her siblings. Her father was really not a good guy. He was didn't take care of his family, was just not a good father, not a good husband. And so so all of the responsibility was on the mother, was on Victoria's mother. And so one day, unfortunately, Victoria's mother, she was coming home from work and she was walking, and they lived in New York City. And so she was walking home from work, and it happened to be that a bus ran over her and didn't see her, ran over her, and she was killed instantly. And so this happened when Victoria was very young, and her siblings were very young. She did have an older sister, but she had siblings that were close to her age as well. And so, of course, that was so devastating for her as a young child, a young girl, to lose her mother in that way. And so her older sister one day noticed that she was not she noticed that she wasn't where she was supposed to be. So she went and looked for her. And so her older sister found her, and she was actually essentially at the spot that the bus had ran her mother over. And this was as a young girl. Imagine in New York City, walking away from the family because she wanted to go to the spot where her mother died, right? And so her older sister finds her, and she is sitting she's sitting down there. There were some stairs, and like how they have those brownstones, and then there's some stairs there. And so she was sitting on one of those stairs, and her older sister frantically, finds her and asks her, she says, "What are you doing here?" And she says, and this is going to make you cry because I know it made me cry when she said it. Victoria said, "I'm waiting for Mama." And I thought, oh my gosh, because as a young girl, even though she knew that her mother had died, she still wanted to come to the place where her mother last was, and she was waiting for her. And I thought that was so powerful. And I could understand why that little girl grew up to be a hard woman, because she had such a loss at such a young age, which of course affects you. This was about the time of the Panama Canal, the building of the Panama Canal. So they were looking for workers, and her father ended up going over to the Panama Canal to go be a worker, and he never returned, and they never heard back from him. So they never knew what became of him, if he died, as many, as some workers did, or if he just went on and lived, another life, another family. But they never heard from him again. And I thought that was so sad, that not only did she lose her mother at such a young age, that she would also lose her father. And so it ended up being that her sister, who was a showgirl, she wanted to be a showgirl, so she was kind of, doing that kind of work. Her sister would actually leave her and her younger siblings with a neighbor, and she would go and she would, do what showgirls do in those days. And she was really left alone, and abandoned by her family. Of course, her older sister would come and get her, but so she really had no family, no parents after her mother passed away. So I thought, I remembered that story when I thought of my mother, because you can understand and know that someone has passed, but I think there is a part of us that still feels it's like surreal, and it's just not real, that that your parents can just be gone. So I thought I would share that, because not too many people talk about grief, and how we deal with grief as we age. I'm not sure that we ever really get over losing our parents. Maybe that's a part of us that just becomes harder after we lose them. Well, I thought I would share that with you today. You can write your comments down below if you want anything to share about grief. Well, I know we had a serious topic, but we also had some beautiful sky views. Bye for now.